Good morning. I'm Fletcher McCusker, the current chairman of the Rio Nuevo board. Welcome to the Tucson Convention Center. For those of you that have not been around lately, there's a lot of work going on across the hall, as you've probably seen or heard. If you go to the rionuevo.org website, you'll see the plans for the renovation of the arena immediately behind us. We're here today to listen to the Urban Land Institute's presentation. They've been embedded in Tucson for about a week. We will be able to take some questions following their presentation. For those of you that are not familiar with the Urban Land Institute, this is an organization that was formed in the 30s, primarily to assist cities like ours with planning, reconstruction, revitalization. They have panels like the one you see here. I'll let them introduce themselves after the mayor makes a few remarks that assist cities like ours to help vision and revision the future of land use. As you all know, as Rio Nuevo fizzled out, most of the projects that were funded by the TIF have been abandoned. Everything from a hotel to an arena to the Tucson Origins Park. So we're all very interested and eager in terms of how we can activate those projects, but moreover, how can we fund those projects. In my experience, this is I think we have sound. In my experience, this is the first time the stakeholders downtown have all come together on a project. This study is funded by the city, the county, PAG, Rio Nuevo, and private developers. So I think that's a unique partnership that we're probably going to need going forward. So without further ado, let me introduce our mayor, Jonathan Rothschild.
All right, well, as Fletcher and I worked through the Rio Nuevo issues over the last 18 months and had continual dialogues almost on a daily and weekly basis and found where we were at, we both thought from our experience in working on urban planning that the ULI would be a great resource to bring to this community. And I want to also thank the partners who helped bring this together, the city, the county, PAG, the private folks. And I can tell you, and I have no idea what we're going to hear, but to make this work, we're going to have to continue to work together. And if we don't work together, we will not make the progress that we all want to make. So I know with all of you, are looking forward to hearing the results. This has been an intense week for these 7 people. They've talked to over 150 stakeholders. But I also want to add that this today is really the beginning of the process. We will get a summary of the report today. We will get a full report within the next 30 to 60 days. And we will all need to digest that report. The city of Tucson is filming today, so all of this will be on Channel 12 and available. It will also be, the reports as they come out will also be online, so you'll be able to get that information online. And I think the message to all of us today, regardless of what we hear, because this is a very rare opportunity to have the kind of expertise that we have here today, and particularly getting it from an outside objective source, that we use this as a platform to continue to work together. This is, I'm not going to say one last chance, although it may be one last chance, but it is one chance for us to finally bring those dreams that we all have for our downtown core, which essentially ultimately goes out to the entire community to thrive and be strong. So again, I want to thank ULI for being here. I want to thank everybody in the room who participated and helped. Thank you very much.
Now, in essence, this is a volunteer organization, so you see volunteers up here. I'd like to introduce this panel because this is a really strong panel. When I saw the names that were already on the panel and I got a chance to contribute to the other names, it was my opportunity to chair a panel, and this is my 11th panel. I thought it was my 10th. The other night I was wrong. I've been told now it's my 11th. But it's always exciting as a chair because we meet these professionals, and this panel is especially suited for our position today. On my left is Alan Billingsley. Alan is an economist. He has worked understanding the nature of those impacts that things that we may not think about every day have on our lives, have on our economy, and have on our businesses, and certainly in the real estate development area. He's worked for large institutions, and he's worked individually with companies and individuals to help them understand better their needs. Michael Byrne, to his left, is our retail specialist. He's our New Yorker who lives in California, who moves back to New York. Michael, you will find, is going to be refreshing because he came in, he was our early research team. He was the guy that came in over the weekend and spent a whole lot of time downtown doing research, interviewing people, meeting people, and trying out the food and beverage of your fine downtown. Charlie Johnson is a consultant. Some of you in the room know Charlie because he has recently completed an audit of the Rio Nuevo activities. Charlie has a great sense of humor. It's a great palate. But he also has a great sense of understanding how to pull together a lot of disparate, great resources, but disparate resources into something that can be accomplished, something can be achieved, and something, in this case, that can be afforded. And so I think you'll enjoy what Charlie has to say. Some of it's cutting edge, some of it's a push. A lot of it, though, is things that you already know. Somebody in this room knows everything we're going to tell you today. It's just that all of you may not know it. And we've tried to help organize and take dreams and make a vision. Ross Tillman on his left is a transportation specialist. Ross is from Seattle, Washington. He and I have worked on panels together. We've known each other through ULI for a number of years. This is his 14th panel. And some of the ideas he had to improve your streets, your sidewalks, and the pathways that are not sidewalks or streets but are real important, you'll find are going to be, again, not things that are new so much as they are things that are thought out, organized, and put into a plan that you can certainly accomplish. To his left is Peter Hasselman. He's our California artist. He's going to talk to you about he can draw. Let me tell you guys, when you see some of the work he's done, I think you're going to be as impressed by his works as we were. We were actually negotiating last night on which pieces we could get him to sign and we could take home. And now I'm working on, can I get a lithography printing program going and have him just number and sign them. And to the far left is Jan Manami. And Jan is someone that really understands implementation, that really understands how to take all the ideas of you that we have meddled with and changed and put together and re-put together, and it's like building a puzzle. She's taken that puzzle and she's actually organized, and I think you'll see what the mayor said. You are at the beginning, and I'm going to call this not the last chance but the first chance to take a plan that is really well organized, take a plan that has some things that are stretched, has some timing built into it, but Monday she's going to have assignments for you guys. So don't plan, enjoy this afternoon, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the rain, because Monday you're going to be bright-eyed and facing the sun with many opportunities to serve your community. ULI is an education and research organization. We're not a networking group. We're not a bragging group. This is a place where I've been to many meetings where the speaker who stood at the podium where I am was near tears, telling you how they had come so close but made these mistakes and was hoping to share those mistakes so that we made a better built environment in the future. That's what's taken place the early years of ULI, and that's what's taking place today, is our opportunity to share with you what we've done. We are a research organization. We are a forum for sharing those best practices and those mistakes made, lessons learned. We have a number of publications. Publications are certainly a big part because we take what we do and we try to make it available to the world. And so you can get online at uli.org, and you can find a number of things that are in the public sector free, and then you can find it at our library and our bookstore and find a number of things that may help you in all walks of life. If it deals with real estate, it doesn't have to be building real estate. It deals with all the impacts of real estate. We convene a number of meetings. We have 2 large meetings a year, but we convene meetings here in Phoenix through our district council. Deb is here. Raise your hand, Deb. If you guys don't know about ULI's local efforts and their impacts locally, not just bringing in national people or people from our national perspective, but bringing in people from your own community to help build a better environment. We have a number of outreach programs, education programs, and then of course we conduct our advisory services panel, which is what you're seeing today. We do 15 to 20 panels a year. We've been doing these since 1947. The model is somewhat set in stone. We started Sunday night, we toured Monday, we interviewed Tuesday, and we haven't slept a whole lot since Tuesday night. That's part of the program. I am very excited and proud of what this team has come up with. I've done nothing but manage. These are great brains on my left. You have heard about your sponsors. You know about the stakeholder interviews. And today you're going to see our presentation. In a few weeks you will get that written report. And I think anything that you hear today in summary will be exemplified and improved by what you see in writing. We do have a completely written report. It's just rough. And so we'll have our editors in Washington, D.C. do that. We had a limited scope. Some of you are going to want to ask questions about what happens somewhere else, up the river, down the river, on the other side of the university. Our study area was outlined in red. We were dealing with the immediate west side and the immediate east side of Interstate 10 related to your downtown and your streetcar line. And we're excited about the streetcar line, and we hope that it opens on July 1. I think we believe that it will. I know that the city manager believes that it will, although there are hurdles still remaining. We focused on the convention center. We focused on the land to the west side, the developments to the west side. We focused on the connections, and we focused a lot on what the future should look like in this area in order to create a great place. I want to first thank Lynn and Nicole and Richard. We wouldn't have gotten past Sunday evening without their efforts. I also want to thank all of you that participated. This is a great group. We appreciate all the feedback we had. Many of you were more candid than you probably have ever been to strangers. We thank you for that. And I'll assure you it made a huge difference. We've met with representatives from your elected group, neighborhood groups, governmental groups, merchants, developers, community leaders, historians, employers, and many other stakeholders in your community. As we explored and learned, as we held to your high value, your history, your culture, and your tradition, we began to formulate our concepts. We attempted to meet with all that were important in this area, including the historical content folks, the barrios, the members, the representatives from the barrios. In addition, we received a lot of email inputs, many of those from residents of the barrios. The panel has attempted to take your efforts into account and your needs into account, include in our findings and recommendations the important role of that history, the tradition, and the culture of your entire community. I want to hand the microphone over to Alan so he can begin to lay the groundwork on how we began to look at the demographics and the economics and the data needs of coming up with our proposals. There you go.
Great, thanks, John. One of the founding principles at ULI is that whenever we're undertaking any kind of project, we really look at the economy and market forces to really understand what we can do with the minimal public resources and hopefully, in some cases, no public resources to achieve some of our goals. Because I think ever since I've been here, we've always had a shrinking pot of public money. So one of the things we do not want to do is to try to propose something that is counter to what the economy suggests or to what market forces suggest. So we spent a good bit of time just as a basic coming up with a basic understanding of what the economy here is in Tucson, and what where we think it's going, and what the market forces are that we believe the market forces are going to be going forward. I worked on this with my partner Michael Byrne. I covered office, hotel, and most importantly, probably multifamily, while Michael covered retail, which is, we spun that off to a specialist because that is such a complicated land use to understand, particularly in a downtown area. So he's going to spend quite a bit of time on that. So we also understand that there are public needs in the downtown that you're going to probably be seeking public monies for. So we haven't really covered affordable housing. We haven't covered social services, additional transportation, and other health needs. These are things that would supplement, but certainly not be counter to the recommendations in our in the plan you're going to hear today. I think it's always, we forget about the past and we forget about what we've just been through. But I like to remind people that the last 5 years have been brutal, I mean, for all of us. And so we've just been through nationally and internationally the worst recession that any of us have experienced, except maybe a handful of people who were alive in the early 1930s. So understanding that, Tucson was battered disproportionately. So we really lost a much higher number of jobs. You had a much bigger housing crisis here. So let's understand that you're coming out of that. Also, the recovery to date, so that's 2010 through today, has been anemic. Okay, the national recovery's been anemic as well, as you hear every day on the television. But Tucson's has been particularly anemic. A little bright point here, though. According to the forecasters that we rely upon and really believe, Tucson is expected to see a pretty strong comeback in the next several years. So we just went out as far as 2017 on this graph. But for the next several years, you're going to be outperforming the rest of the country. So we think you'll get back to peak 2007 employment by 2015. Okay, that's a little later than the rest of the country, but you're going to get there fairly fast from where we are now, with a lot of anticipated migration, probably on a scale that you haven't seen for a while over the next, say, 4 to 5 years. So that's the economic backdrop. Let's look at what is the position of downtown, in terms as a market within the Tucson region. I think no two downtowns are the same. So let's take a look at what our downtown is good at. It is certainly the region's hub for government. Government's not really spread out like it is in some cities. So we really have concentrated at downtown. And certainly cultural and entertainment. There's some outside of downtown, but we really have centered most theater, performing arts, fine arts, and more popular arts in the downtown area. And so we think it really has the potential we have the potential to enhance that role in serving the region. I think it's also becoming, and this is a fairly new phenomenon here, it's a huge phenomenon nationally, which Tucson's certainly participating in, in introducing cutting-edge food and beverage. And there's no question that the downtown, maybe along with the adjacent, some of the adjacent areas, is the center for cutting-edge food and beverage. And then supplementing that is some just amazing private entertainment establishments that really bring different demographic groups into downtown. Compared to some other downtowns, I'm from San Francisco, this is not a downtown that's very strong on private office space. So we calculated that of occupied office space in the metro, 80% of it is outside of downtown. So it's not a big role. And I'm not sure, at least for the near term, we expect that to change a lot. So I'm just going to go through my 3 land uses in terms of their potentials. But I'm going to start with multifamily, and I'm really going to focus first on rental product. We think this is and you already have a very, very nice project just being completed downtown that I think will prove that this is a viable market. But we think this is really a key thing for downtown to focus on in the near term. There's strong national trends, there's strong local trends toward a more urban lifestyles and toward renting rather than owning. So I think this is a product we could introduce to downtown in greater numbers than we have right now, get some warm bodies living downtown. And this will be really kind of a beginning for supporting other kinds of activities and uses downtown. So we're very strong on this recommendation. We would, I calculated that I think you could target 200 to 300 units a year. I'm talking about private market rate housing. Now that's an ambitious goal. It's certainly an ambitious goal. I figured that it's somewhere between 20 to 25% of your regional demand for market rate rental housing. So that's a pretty big capture, but we think it's achievable. You know, if we can bring the right sites to market, and I think within that, I would prefer to build on what we're calling the East Congress entertainment district, but focus on that part of the downtown that is currently the most lively and build upon the activity going on there right now. I'd also encourage, this has been an ongoing process. Some of the people in this room have been very involved in this, but infill single-family development within the neighborhoods surrounding downtown. That has happened on a somewhat sporadic and small scale to date. I think with the changing lifestyle preferences and with renewed economic growth here in Tucson, that could be a much bigger trend. So I do think it is a more expensive product, clearly, than the rental apartments, so it'll diversify to some extent the population that'll be living in and around downtown. So to the extent that you make sure that zoning facilitates rather than inhibits this process of infill, but also it respects the historic nature of these barrios, and also just the development that has started on the west side. You need to keep that going. That's an incredibly high quality product, and we'll just build additional support for the downtown area. As I'd mentioned before, we don't really see a lot of demand for new office space. Now, caveat to that might be if you were able to attract a major new user to Tucson or to downtown. But in terms of just market forces, you will see some of the users downtown, as the economy expands, will start to expand and hopefully lease more space. Hopefully you can retain them downtown. I think there needs to be a strong focus on leasing to get what is now a fairly high vacancy rate down to something more sustainable. But we also think, there's a lot of the office space that's downtown is Class B or C. So it's fairly inexpensive space, and that some of that could be made to look kind of interesting. So just threw in a image of some of the more entrepreneurial startup type firms that you might be able to see as particularly coming out of the University of Arizona or other bright entrepreneurial people, and try to track that downtown. We recognize there's already some some co-worker space downtown, so build upon that. We also think there's a near-term demand for small to mid-sized business hotel. Since the closing of the Hotel Arizona, you really don't have a downtown, strong downtown business quality hotel. So we think it really is an immediate need for a 100 to 200 room hotel. Realize there's already a proposal for that, and we support that as a branded, strong national brand, something that will be supportable by certainly the government, private business downtown, but also events. And I think even if we could draw a few tourists into downtown as it increasingly becomes an interesting place to visit. So I'm going to turn this over to Michael Byrne.
Well, thank you, Alan. That was a great overview. I was really looking forward to coming to Tucson. I'd heard some great things about what was happening here, and particularly the speed at which they've happened during very tough economic times. And so I was really eager to see that progress on the ground. So as John told you, I did arrive early on Saturday. Tried to get the lay of the land, spend some time in the nearby districts as well, 4th Avenue, Main Gate, Broadway Village, all of that. And also spend some time in the evenings on Congress Street and to really get a flavor. Had some really good corn risotto at Proper. Because as I... I'm a troublemaker. So why a specific person just for retail? Well, retail, especially in a downtown setting, it's the first use and sometimes the only use that people see and can appreciate. You don't necessarily know the vacancy rate of office buildings or of residential complexes. You don't know the actual tenants. But retail, you can immediately develop a sense, maybe not an accurate one, but a sense of what the place is all about. And as a result, retail can have an outsized impact on perceptions of downtown. And hence, and given how complicated it can be, it was felt that this panel in particular needed that sort of focus. So the first slide here, in retail, we have something called trade area. It's a term of art. It refers basically to a particular business district's draw. That is to say, from how far it is able to pull